Hello, 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 and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, takeover news, general news show where we just discuss all the latest things going on surrounding Manchester United. And I'm just going to put my phone on silent because the amount of times I've done a live stream and then you just hear ding, ding, ding. It's so infuriating. So I thought I'd do that just now. But I've got a few interesting things to speak about. There are going to be massive changes happening at Man United, positive changes to the scouting department. So we do have positive things to talk about. We do have negative things to talk about. As Gaz has put in the chat, the club is a circus, and if you don't like clowns, then I'm sorry, our club is run by clowns, and I don't like clowns. And yeah, actually, that's probably a bit mean to clowns comparing them to the Glazers. But we are a bit the circus. But we are making some positive changes to the scouting department. We're going to get into that. What does that mean? Why is that good? Going to be exploring the South American, European market more. As I've said in many videos, I've been told that Man United are really looking at the South American market more after missing out on the likes of Julian Alvarez, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez. They're a bit frustrated. We will dive into that. That's a positive thing. Some people are saying, does this mean the takeover is not happening if they're making this big change here? We know that there's been leaks coming out, and reportedly the leaks has been coming out by a scout that's about to be sacked by United because of these big scouting changes. There's going to be a few sackings at the club, which is causing people to be unhappy, which is why there's a mass amount of leaks coming out as well. The club is actually launching an investigation not only into the leaks, but now into the medical department. Man United set to not only oversee the recruitment and scouting department, but Manchester United set to sack people from the medical department unhappy with injuries, doing an investigation into that as well. So there is quite a lot of interesting things coming in on Man United. And of course, there is the takeover news as well. Now, I'm going to be honest, Bloomberg, who's a pretty credible source, did drop a big story on Sir Jim last night saying he's in the lead and all of that. And I said in my video yesterday, I think I did a 15-minute long video yesterday, and I said with every takeover story, no matter if they're saying that Qatar's about to win, the Glazers about to stay, or Sir Jim's about to win, I always say every takeover story, there's no point believing anything until it happens. The only way I'm going to maybe slightly believe a takeover story is if it was maybe Sir Jim coming out or a few sources coming out saying that Sir Jim was going to withdraw his bid. And then if multiple sources start saying it, maybe I believe the takeover story before it happened. If we had Mike Keegan, Lawton of the Times, Fabrizio Romano, Ornstein all come out and say, oh, it's going to be Qatar, then I would start to believe the takeover story. But I think with the takeover story, no matter who it's from, what it says, where it comes out, I think sometimes you just have to go, so I don't think I can believe it. I wouldn't take it seriously anymore. I don't take a lot of the takeover news seriously anymore. I mean, obviously, I always cover it because you guys ask me about it. I always give my honest opinion. But I think until anything happens, I think with that takeover news going out, I don't take it serious about Sir Jim being on the verge of winning because nothing else has come out today. I said, and I don't know if you read my tweet on this whole situation, but I said with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I was like, I don't get why the Glazers would want his bid. I don't see how his bid is financially better for them. I don't know why Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants 25%. I said, obviously, I think the Qataris need to up their bid. And I think the news about Sir Jim Ratcliffe being in the lead is a ploy just to get the Qataris to up their bid. And I've said this with the takeover. At the end of the day, there's going to be a meeting. Bloomberg said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe reconstructing his bid doesn't mean he'll win. So although they're suggesting that the takeover is closer than ever and Sir Jim Ratcliffe's in the lead and that the Qataris need to up their bid, why would all six Glazer siblings agree to Ratcliffe's 25% offer when they're not going to get that much money up front to do the stuff they need to do to the stadium? So I do think with the takeover news as well is, for me, it's just boring, isn't it? I don't think you can really believe anything till it happens or multiple people say it. And, a lot of people will see, oh, it's Bloomberg, and they're saying Sir Jim's going to win. Bloomberg have said Qatar's going to win, and nothing's happened the next day as well. So I say with every takeover story, take it with a pinch of salt until lots of credible people, multiple people get on it until we actually see changes. Any one-off reports have basically been dismissed with the takeover unless followed up by more and more credible sources. Now, a credible source did actually speak on the takeover. One of the people that's been leaking information inside United, leaking information pretty accurately. And he literally said, and I don't know if you know who Johan Sider is, but Johan Sider was that account that Man United were investigating, who was leaking all about the injuries, telling everyone Wan-Bissaka was injured, telling everyone who was going to be back, who was going to be injured before anyone else. And it was absolutely spot on with that. And Johan Sider, who is clearly got a very good source inside United because he is saying what the injuries are, exactly what they are, 3 days before the club are coming out saying it, has basically said on the takeover, the journalists know nothing. He said the ITKs and the journalists haven't got a clue. They just post vague information and opinion to hope. They are, insiders at the club have basically said these journalists don't have a clue. Even the journalists like Bloomberg and Reuters, who are good, what he is saying, and this is a guy who's an insider in the club because he's got everything spot on, is he is saying those journalists, those ITKs, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue as well. So I think it's always interesting to look at it that way. Guys, let's see if we can hit 300 likes by the end of the live stream. We're on 56 likes, so please do keep hitting that like button as well. And of course, subscribe down below if you're new. I don't know how long this live stream will be just because it's international break and I think the news is a little bit dry at the moment, but I do want to get into the stories. And as Alex B says, financially just don't see the point for the parasites taking a minority investment now where the club continues to decline as long as they stay on. Exactly. Full sale only. It makes no sense for them to stay. I think Qatar are the only serious bidder. I read something today actually from someone that said that Qatar's the only serious bidder for Man United now, and the Qataris know that, which is why they're not going to change their bid, because they think that the Glazers want them to change their bid because it makes no sense for the Glazers to accept a minority offer. So look, I think the Qataris are going to have to up their bid to get it done. I think if the Glazers were going to sell, they would have sold it at that price by now. But I think the Qataris are in a very strong position where they know that actually they're the only serious buyer for the full sale of Manchester United as well. Big up everybody in the chat as well. Takeover news is tedious. I mean, I'm bored of it. I'm so bored of the takeover news as well. People saying Darcy won't agree to 25% did. Bitch, she's dead skin. I don't think she's skin, but I know that 4 of the Glazer siblings, I think Darcy, Kevin, Brian, and whoever the 4th one is, apparently aren't the biggest fan of a minority and want the full sale. But Abram and Joel, you know what Abram and Joel are like as well. What's Rio Ferdinand saying on the takeover? Does anyone want to know what Rio Ferdinand's saying on the takeover? For me, as well. But look, let's actually talk about some stories, and then we'll get back into that. But I would take a bit of the takeover. I would basically with the takeover, unless loads and loads of credible sources are saying the same thing and we actually see it happening, I wouldn't let it affect your mood. Like I wouldn't let the story last night saying that Sir Jim's on the verge of winning affect your mood, because to be honest, I don't think it is. But we do have a few news stories to get into. The first news story that's come out is actually on Ajax trying to steal Mitchell van der Gaag. Now, if you don't know who Mitchell van der Gaag is the assistant manager to Ten Hag. Ten Hag brought Mitchell van der Gaag with him from Ajax. And actually, when Ten Hag left Ajax did try and keep van der Gaag and ask if he wants to be the manager, but he came to United to be assistant manager with Ten Hag. If you don't know who Mitchell van der Gaag is, he's bald and he drives a Lambo to training. He's that guy. He's pretty cool. Anyway, it was said while Mitchell van der Gaag is on Ajax's list for replacement managers, it's unlikely that Ten Hag will allow him to join. So our assistant manager van der Gaag, I don't think he's going anywhere just yet. So that was the first story that came out from the Telegraph about potential changes to assistant manager within the club. I think we're going to stay with McLaren, van der Gaag and Ten Hag. I can't see many changes happening, but where changes are happening is in the scouting department. And we're going to talk about why that's significant, because I was telling you about what I've been told the other day about this. I don't know if you watched my video the other day, but I said that I've heard from some people that were making changes to our scouting department. I think it was a live stream I made the other day, and that has now been confirmed by Laurie Whitwell. What I was told in more detail was actually that United do want to utilise the South American market more, so it will be interesting to see what happens with that. So we're going to get into this second story here, and then we'll get back into basically shaming the Glazers, we'll call it as well. So the second story came out and said that Manchester United have decided to make major changes to their scouting setup at both youth and first team level. They are narrowing the scope of their head of academy recruitment to concentrate solely on domestic signings and bringing international youth talent spotters under the senior radar. So essentially what he's saying is Manchester United are making massive changes to their scouting side, and that their head of academy recruitment is now actually going to be sort of spotting international young talent. Now, why would that be the case? Well, the head of academy recruitment found the likes of Alvaro Fernandez and Garnacho. He's done quite a good job, and I think United see it as more of a promotion. It was said that Manchester United's new scouting process has split the globe into different sections, focusing on the top leagues in Europe and the Americas. Groups of scouts will cover each area and report to a senior recruiter. So basically, United are making a few little changes to the scouting department as well, which I think are positive changes. But why are they making changes to the scouting department? Why are they making changes to this, changes to that when the takeover's going on? Manchester United is still operating like a club, employing this person, sacking this person, making changes here, making changes there. Manchester United is still operating like a club that has no intention of selling, aren't they? And a lot of people are worried about that. But I've said, look, that's what the Glazers will do. The Glazers will try and act like they're a club that have no intention of selling, but we know deep down the Glazers do want to sell the club. They're trying to make out that they don't because they want to scare Qatar into upping their bid. But we know the financial state of Manchester United. We know the situation we're in, and we know that the Glazers deep down have to sell and that they're getting really weak with our on-the-field performances. So I don't think just because we're making this change or that change to our scouting department that it means anything about the sale. I think the changes that we're making to our scouting department are good. You know, the guy that's found the likes of Alvaro Fernandez, the guy that's found the likes of Garnacho, he's one of the good scouts. And I'll say this, and I'm going to say this here actually, because a lot of people shame our scouts and shame our recruitment team, and I think it's unfair. And you might be laughing, Alice, what do you mean? What do you mean? Our scouts and recruitment team aren't the problem. It's the people that make the decisions. Our scouts and recruitment team, yes, they could be improved, but this is what I look at the problem at United. Our scouts and recruitment team, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, two players that would walk into our midfield right now. They take it to the board, they take it to the people at the top of the club, they say no. Joel Glazer, Arnold, Woodward, who's ever at the top of the club goes, I've never heard of this guy. I've not heard of this guy, he must be rubbish. Our scouts find the likes of Julian Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo. Our scouts found, we're looking at players like Bernardo Silva, Ruben Diaz, John Stones, Gundogan, all ended up at Man City, part of their treble side. Our scout, half of Man City's players, our scouts picked out. That's the thing. And I think while I think we do need to improve in terms of recruitment and scouting, I don't think it's actually on the scouts not finding the players. I think it's on the people above the scouts who decide which of those players we're going to sign or not. Because we've been linked, and our scouts have found so many talented players that would walk into this side right now. But those above the scouts, with the higher end of recruitment, the Merters, the Arnolds, the Woodwards, have gone, nah, we're not going to buy that player. He's not worth it. Joel Glazer goes, oh, I'm not going to buy that player. Why would I spend 4 million on Caicedo? So while I think there needs to be changes to the scouting network and it needs to improve, I also got to remind people that I think being a scout at United must feel like one of the most useless jobs in the world. And maybe that's just me saying that, but I do feel sorry for our scouts. I think our scouts, they go off to South America. They find your Moises Caicedo, your Enzo Fernandez, your Julian Alvarez. Well, Ragnick was a big part of that as well. Our scouts go and suggest all these names to the board. They go, this great young talent's going to be 5-10 million. He's going to be fantastic in a few years. Or they go, look, this is James Maddison. He's going to be available for 40 million in the summer. Or they, some obvious names. And they go all around and they go to the board. This is who we should get. This is who we should get. This guy's cheap. This guy suits the manager's philosophy. This guy can be press resistant, break the lines, which is what Ten Hag wants. So the scouts find these really good players. They found people like Suzuki, the goalkeeper in Japan, that's arguably been one of the best goalkeepers in the Belgium league this season as well. Our scouts find all these interesting names, all these interesting people, and then they take them to the board. They take them to those higher up who are ahead of recruitment and choose who we buy and sell. And those at the board will go, oh, I've never heard of Moises Caicedo, this 4 million player. He's not going to be good enough for United. He's obviously not ready. There's no point in us molding him in. Let's go and give Scott McTominay a new contract. Do you know what I mean? That's the big problem with our club. We actually, I think if you're a scout at United, sometimes you must feel useless because the amount of time we've scouted good players when they were young, when they were cheap, and then we'll go and spend 80 million on Maguire. Even at the moment, I think the players that we scouted were quite young quite good at centre back. Todibo 40 million. Considering we could have got just over 30 million from West Ham for Maguire. Todibo for 37 million seems like a good deal. We don't go for it, but I actually think it must be so infuriating being a scout at United when you find some of these good hidden gems abroad and then you take it to the board and they're like, no, we're going to sign this really overpriced, overrated English player because he's going to sell more shirts. Sometimes that's how our club operates, and sometimes I think it's a bit embarrassing as well. What's that? So just looking at a few chats here, 110 likes, people, so keep smashing the likes as well. Ragnick scouted Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez, Luis Diaz, Vlahovic, and Akanji. Even 2 out of 5 of those players would have sold for United. Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much all of those players, maybe Vlahovic, that's a questionable one, but we do need a striker. Those players would have pretty much fit in at United as well. Our execs and boards are totally inept. If they sanction those up-and-coming deals, we could have saved millions long-term. And that's the frustrating thing, is if Manchester United actually did their long-term rebuild with some kind of plan, with some kind of thought process, we would save so much money. I think people forget how much money that we would save just from actually thinking more, from being a better run club. going, oh, let's get this young talent here. You buy a few expensive players there, you buy a few young talents here, but we would save so much money as a club. We'd be so much better off as a club if we actually listened to our scouts and didn't let Joel Glazer or Ed Woodward make the final decisions on who we sign, who we sell. I think sometimes it's ridiculous as well. Alice, the Ineos owner, is thought to have put forward a revised proposal that would see him take 25% club in United. Very poor. Glazers out Qatar, and I agree. I don't see why Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants 25% of the club unless he's being promised 100% of the club over long term. But I don't know why the Glazers would accept 25% and then agree to something that might not happen for 4 or 5 years, because the market can change in 4 or 5 years. I don't think the Glazers would agree to giving Sir Jim the whole club that far ahead. For me, Sir Jim's bid doesn't make sense, and I'd be very surprised if the Glazers accepted it. I think the Qataris are right when they say we're the only serious bidder for the full club now, because Sir Jim is changing his, so we don't feel competition or pressure from Sir Jim. We know the Glazers want full sale, and we're in a strong position. That's what they think as well. Jim is an arse. Look at Alice. He looks ridiculous. He does. And the thing is, the Glazers now know they can take advantage out of Jim. Jim's basically gone for 100% of the club to 70% of the club to 50% of the club, allowing the Glazers to stay. Now 25% of the club. So Jim Ratcliffe is basically bending over backwards, basically saying, put it in me to the Glazers, because it's so obvious he's desperate. And the Glazers are like, oh, well, maybe we could milk this guy, take advantage for this guy, get this guy to give us the 1.5 billion to stay at the club another 3 years, so we can sell it for 10 billion in a few years. And Jim Ratcliffe never gets a sniff of being owners. All our owners look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe now as thinking, oh, we can take advantage of him because he's a fool. That's what I think. I think it's like, Mr. I'm so cool, I'm a Man United fan. Mr. I'm a Man United fan that tried to buy Chelsea as a Chelsea season ticket holder, and also says he wants to buy United and take us back to the top, but is willing to keep the Glazers here and give the Glazers power and control. How can you take Man United back to the top if the Glazers are the decision makers, not you? We're never going to be at the top with the Glazers decision makers. So the fact that he even claims he's a Manchester United fan, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I think is particularly embarrassing. He's no Man United fan if he wants to keep the Glazers here, and I know some people aren't the biggest fan of the Qatari bid, but at the end of the day, you've got the Glazers staying or the Qataris, and I'm taking the Qataris over the Glazers staying any day of the week, because the Qataris will actually be good owners for United. I know people don't like Newcastle's owners, but they're bloody good owners. And yes, you know what? I think we just need good owners. I think we just need good owners as well. Keep smashing the likes, people. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new and share the video as well. Jim did want to buy Chelsea. Vermin rats out. Yes, vermin rats out, people. Anyway, it was said Manchester United have launched an investigation into why they've had so many first team injuries this season. United have had 16 absentees thus far this season. So Mike Egan's confirmed that we are yet again Investigation FC. We are Statement FC. We are Leaks FC. We are Investigation FC. We are Problems with every single right winger we sign FC. Well, that is what we are. But we are back to being Investigation FC, where we're investigating the injuries because we're also Injury FC. 16 absences 2 months into the season. That is absolutely dreadful. That is absolutely awful. And a part of it is, I think, Ten Hag's lack of rotation last season. Part of it is probably us being in all 4 cup competitions to the very end. But another part of it is an outdated medical system. You don't have a conditioning or rehabilitation coaching like other clubs do. The facilities are behind. I think, the fact that it's all muscle injuries as well, I think it's from poor training regimes, it's from poor staff, it's from poor facilities. I think the injury crisis is partly on Ten Hag overplaying certain people. But at the same time, Erik Ten Hag plays a much more demanding style of football than Oli did, than Rangnick did, than Mourinho did. Ten Hag wants to play a much more hyperactive style of football, which requires a lot more running, which is a lot higher intensity. And Ten Hag tried to bring coaches in to help with that, and a rehabilitation team and a medical team to help with that. And Man United didn't give Ten Hag the medical staff that he wanted, that were used to it. So I think Man United have gone from not having to run a lot or playing a bit passive under Oli and Jose to a much more expansive style of football under Ten Hag. And potentially they can't cope with it because Ten Hag wasn't allowed to bring in the certain coaches he wanted to help the team with that. It said officials from Man United's medical department are actively seeking if there's any patterns with injuries, and that's what they're looking at. And that Man United officials are looking at whether the post-World Cup busy schedule has played a big role in injuries. United played 41 games from the end of December to the end of the season, the same amount as Villa and Brentford did the whole season. So we played more games in 6 months than teams like Villa and Brentford did the whole season, which has definitely set us back a bit. But I think it's Ten Hag overplaying people. I think it's the crazy fixture list. I think it's all of that stuff. But I do think poor medical staff, those at the top neglecting the club. I think that's another reason behind the injuries. You know, our gym and facilities are out of date. Did you see Charlie Savage? Did anyone see what Charlie Savage said? Charlie Savage went on TV, did an interview, and was asked about what it's like going from Man United to Reading. And Charlie Savage said, well, actually, the facilities here are better or just as good or something. Charlie Savage basically said, oh, like, he's a big Man United fan, he loves Man United, but the facilities are better at Reading. And you know what? I believe that. I believe the training facilities are better at Reading because United have not spent a penny on training facilities or changed the training ground in 17, 18 years because the Glazers won't. You know, we speak about the stadium the most because we can see visibly the stadium's leaking, and you look at Real Madrid's new stadium, Spurs' new stadium, and you go, this is Old Trafford. We are the most iconic, biggest club in the world, and our stadium's a mess. But apparently the training ground's a bigger mess. Apparently it is as well. The tactics are better than Reading as well. But yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's true that Reading have better facilities than us as well. I blame FIFA and UEFA as well. They will hold clubs to FFP home growth quotas, yet increasingly already unsustainable schedule. Exactly. And also, when teams like Chelsea and Man City slightly bend the rules, they can just pay and make it go away. For some reason, FFP and this and that only applies to United and not Chelsea and not City as well. That's what annoys me. We're on 132 likes, guys. Can we get to 200 likes? We've got 400 people watching. Let's see if we can hit 200 likes on the video as well. Most of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's niece tenure hasn't been good either. Other than PSG, that league is there for the taking with such wealth. Yeah, the fact that Sir Jim has got so much money in such a dead league that's so uncompetitive. You know, you've got to think of how competitive the Premier League is compared to League One. And needs to failing in League One gives me no confidence that United are going to have any success under Jim Ratcliffe in the things. He said the training facilities were on par. On par, that was it. On par. So he didn't say they were better, he said they were on par. But the fact that Reading's training facilities were on par is quite funny. But Ronaldo came out and said the training facilities haven't changed in ages as well. Alex, what's going on with the scouting teams? They're just making a few changes, a few people being let go of. The head of the academy scouting is being promoted to more of an advanced role because he found people like Garnacho, Alvaro Fernandez, and United are looking to take more advantage of sort of the top European leagues and South American leagues as well with the scouting department. They've made a few changes, and apparently one of the leaks at the moment was an unhappy scout about these changes who's set to be sacked, which will be interesting to see if many leaks happen in the coming weeks once that guy is reportedly sacked as well. I think that will be particularly interesting. We've got a few more stories I want to dive into, but it won't be a super long live stream because there's not crazy amounts of news to get into as well. But obviously hit the like button if you want the Glazers out. The chaotic preseason destroyed our first team. I wouldn't blame preseason for our poor form. I think it was chaotic. I think the schedule was chaotic and we played a lot. But I think it's a lot deeper than that. And actually a lot of our players didn't play that much until the end of preseason. What it is there's World Cups, there's international breaks 24/7. We're on all 4 cup competitions to the end. Ten Hag didn't rotate a lot. Then we had preseason when we did play a lot of games. And I don't think players have been fully able to recover. I think poor facilities, Man United not running the club well in many aspects hasn't helped. But at the end of the day, I think injuries just comes down to poor management of the club, lots of games, some things we can stop, some things we couldn't stop. That's what I think it is as well. Ange did get manager of the month as well, so big up to him. No 10 for manager of the month, although we didn't really win any games as well. Alice, Glazers are just so good in business. Jim Ratcliffe is the bait. The club will be sold to the Qataris. Need to get good signings. Well, that's what I'm hoping that. So Jim is being used as bait for the Qataris, and the Qataris come in and they sign some good people as well. Guys, keep smashing the likes. Let's go for 200 likes. 47 likes to go as well. Nice did smack up PSG. They actually did, but that was a one-off game. I have to say though, I'm not the biggest fan of PSG. I've just never liked them. I liked that they got battered by Newcastle and all that as well. Their fans are some of the worst, I think. Their fans just seem so ungrateful. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me as well. But look, people, I'm probably going to wrap up the live stream here, to be honest, because it's international break and there's not too much to talk about. Actually, I've got one more story. I forgot about this one. I was going to say the live stream will probably be a 30-minute one instead of a 45-minute one, just because it's the international break and there is news on the takeover, but it's the same news on the takeover we've been saying for ages. So I didn't want it to be repetitive, if that's the word for it, because international break news is always a bit dead. But it was said that Man United are working with Andre Onana in order to help rescue the errors in his game, including stabilising himself more quickly to help with low shots. Onana's also thinking about ditching AFCON to focus on his United career, and that United coaches have reminded Andre Onana to take up a more imposing stance when attackers are through one-on-one, as they see that as an issue he's shown in the United shirt. So Onana's reportedly going to have some one-on-one sort of coaching and some sessions with Man United. conversations with Ten Hag to assess sort of where everything's going wrong, and Man United are just focusing on coaching and improving Onana. I think Onana had a really poor start to his career at United. I don't think Onana has been particularly good, but I do trust that Onana can turn it around. I like the guy. I trust that he can turn it around. And look, hopefully he does, because if he's not turned it around, maybe he's our Claudio Bravo signing. We have to go out and get a goalkeeper again. But we saw what he did in the Champions League final. We know that he's a good keeper. Ten Hag rates him, he's worked with Ten Hag. Probably doesn't help that he's got players bad and build up and players that don't want the ball a lot when it comes to distributing. But I think with some confidence, with a run of form, I do think Onana will be back. And I do think Onana will be particularly good as well. His reactions are a lot slower than De Gea, but he is a lot better than De Gea on the ball as well. Guys, let's see if we can hit that 300 or 200 like target. Keep smashing the likes as well. And Ten Hag will replace Onana if his form doesn't improve, and I think that will be the case. But we'll have to see. Could De Gea come back? He is back in Manchester, but I don't think De Gea will be coming back because of his wages. De Gea hasn't found a club yet, which is pretty sad, but I'm sure De Gea will find a club soon. At the end of the day, look, I know that De Gea wasn't the greatest last season, but he was nowhere near as bad as some people tried to make out. So I am quite surprised he's not found a club yet. Anyway, people, please do smash that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video. I want to thank everyone for watching. See you next time, and bye.